There is a specific moment when a man realizes that something about you unsettles him, not because you demand, not because you chase, not because you explain yourself, but because you don't need to. He feels it before he understands it. A quiet disturbance in his chest, a subtle loss of balance. Around this type of woman, his usual strategies stop working. His charm feels smaller. His confidence no longer echoes the same way, and he cannot quite name why. This is not the woman who asks to be chosen. This is the woman who remains whole even when no one is watching. Her energy does not reach outward to pull, persuade, or prove. It folds inward. It is contained, and that containment is exactly what destabilizes him. Men are taught, often unconsciously, that power is something to assert, to project, to occupy space with. But when they encounter a woman whose presence is complete without their participation, something ancient stirs inside them. As Carl Jung said, what we do not understand in ourselves, we experience as fate. And in her presence, a man is forced to confront parts of himself he has kept unexamined. She is not cold. She is not distant. She is simply not leaking her energy. She listens without collapsing into him. She speaks without over-explaining. She feels deeply without turning her emotions into currency. And because of this, he feels exposed, not judged, not attacked, but seen. Seen without being needed. And that is where weakness enters. A self-contained woman does not mirror a man's identity back to him for reassurance. She does not stabilize his ego by constantly responding, validating, or emotionally managing him. And without that familiar feedback loop, his inner world begins to wobble. He starts to question himself, not because she criticizes, but because she doesn't compensate. Jung believed that true power is not dominance, but individuation, the state of being psychologically whole. And when a man stands next to a woman who has already done this work, his own fragmentation becomes impossible to ignore. Her silence activates his shadow. Her calm reveals his restlessness. Her emotional sovereignty highlights his dependence. This is why he may feel weaker around her, not because she takes strength from him, but because she no longer lends him hers. Around her, he cannot hide behind performance. He cannot control the emotional temperature. He cannot predict her reactions through manipulation or withdrawal. And this lack of control feels like vulnerability. To an unintegrated man, vulnerability feels like danger. So his body reacts before his mind does. He becomes cautious, more self-aware, sometimes defensive, sometimes unusually attentive. Because deep down, he senses it. She does not need him to be okay. And that realization quietly rearranges the balance of power. This is the emotional effect of self-contained feminine energy. It does not overpower. It does not confront. It does not explain itself. It simply is. What unsettles a man most is not her independence, but the way she carries it without announcement. She does not declare her boundaries. She lives inside them. And this quiet consistency removes something many men unconsciously rely on: emotional leverage. Around most women, a man senses where he stands. He can feel when he is needed, when his presence stabilizes, when his absence creates anxiety. That feedback gives him orientation. But with a self-contained woman, the signals are different. Her emotional state does not rise and fall with his behavior. Her nervous system is not waiting for him to regulate it. And this absence of reaction creates an unfamiliar inner tension. He begins to wonder, if I pull away, will she chase? And when she doesn't, something collapses inside his expectations. This is not because she doesn't feel. It's because she does not abandon herself when feeling arises. Carl Jung spoke often about projection, how we unconsciously place our unmet needs, fears, and desires onto others. A self-contained woman disrupts this mechanism. She does not carry his projections for him. She does not absorb his confusion, soothe his insecurity, or translate his emotional chaos into meaning. She leaves it where it belongs, with him. And that is when weakness appears. Because weakness, in this context, is not lack of strength. It is lack of grounding. When a man realizes that his emotional state is no longer being stabilized externally, he is forced inward, forced to sit with himself, forced to feel the parts he usually avoids. Her presence becomes a mirror that does not distort. She doesn't rush to fill silence. She doesn't rescue awkwardness. She doesn't soften truth to preserve comfort. And suddenly, he becomes hyper-aware of his own impulses, the need to impress, to dominate, to withdraw, to test. He notices himself trying, and realizing you are trying is deeply destabilizing to the ego. Jung would say that this is the moment the shadow emerges, the parts of the self that were hidden by roles and strategies. Around her, the mask slips without being pulled off. He feels smaller not because she makes him small, but because the version of him that relied on control no longer works. This is why some men react with admiration, while others react with resistance. The integrated man feels challenged in the best way. He feels called upward. Her energy does not threaten him, it sharpens him. But the unintegrated man feels exposed. He senses that he cannot dominate what is whole. He cannot anchor himself to someone who is already anchored within herself. And so, around her, he may hesitate, speak more carefully, act more consciously, or, if he cannot tolerate the internal pressure, he may disappear altogether. Because a woman who is emotionally self-contained does not need to be managed, persuaded, or reassured. And that removes the illusion of power many men confuse for connection. Her strength is not loud. Her influence is not strategic. Her impact is psychological. She makes him feel weak only because she refuses to be weak for him. And in that refusal, she reveals something profound. True feminine power is not relational dependency. It is emotional sovereignty. There is a deeper reason why her presence drains false confidence from a man, and it has nothing to do with dominance or control. It has everything to do with containment. A self-contained woman does not outsource her emotional center. She does not lean unconsciously. She does not merge to survive connection. And because of that, she changes the emotional gravity in the room. Most people bond through exchange, attention for attention, reassurance for reassurance, effort for validation. But she does not operate on exchange. She operates on presence. And presence has weight. When a man is used to being needed, being wanted is not enough. And when he meets a woman who wants him but does not require him to stabilize her inner world, his nervous system feels displaced. He cannot locate himself through usefulness. He cannot confirm his value through rescue. He cannot earn safety by fixing. Carl Jung wrote that dependency creates an illusion of intimacy, while wholeness creates the conditions for truth. Around this woman, truth rises to the surface, quietly, mercilessly, without accusation. She does not test him. She does not challenge him. She does not provoke. And yet, everything in him is challenged. He notices that she does not rush to respond emotionally, that her mood does not swing when his attention shifts, that her life continues with or without his presence. And this is where the ego feels weak, because the ego feeds on reaction. Without reaction, there is nothing to push against. This is why he may feel strangely transparent around her. He senses that manipulation would be visible, that games would fall flat, that withdrawal would not punish her. And when none of his usual levers work, he is left with himself, unbuffered. Jung would say that this is the moment when the persona collapses. The social mask loses relevance. The man is no longer performing masculinity. He is confronting it. And if his identity has been built on being needed rather than being integrated, the confrontation is uncomfortable. Her emotional self-containment does not emasculate him. It demands authenticity. Around her, bravado feels childish. Control feels desperate. And effort without integrity feels exposed. He feels weaker because he is no longer protected by illusion. Some men grow here. They slow down. They listen. They refine themselves. They feel something unfamiliar, respect mixed with humility. Others retreat. They label her intimidating, cold, or too much, because naming her would require naming their own fragmentation. But the truth remains the same. She does not overpower men. She does not diminish them. She simply refuses to shrink so they can feel tall. And in her presence, a man learns something he was never taught. That real strength is not felt when someone leans on you. It is felt when someone stands whole beside you. What most men do not realize is that the weakness they feel around her is not loss. It is exposure. Around a self-contained woman, there is nowhere to hide emotionally, no role to slip into, no script to follow. She does not reward performative strength, and she does not punish vulnerability. She simply does not react in ways that make pretending sustainable. And this is deeply unsettling. A man may suddenly feel slower around her, more careful with his words, more aware of his intentions, not because she demands clarity, but because ambiguity collapses in her presence. She does not chase meaning. She allows meaning to reveal itself. And when it does, it is unmistakable. As Carl Jung observed, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Around this woman, the unconscious rises. His habits, his defenses, his unresolved hunger for validation, all surface without being named. She does not interrogate him. She does not analyze him. She does not push for emotional disclosure. And yet, he feels psychologically naked. Why? Because her emotional center does not move toward him for reassurance. It stays with her. This reverses a dynamic many men unconsciously expect, that a woman's emotional world will orbit theirs. When it doesn't, the illusion of centrality breaks. And that break can feel like weakness. He may feel less impressive, less certain, less powerful, but what he is really feeling is the absence of inflation. Without someone reflecting his importance back to him, he is left with a quieter, more honest self-assessment. And honesty feels brutal when one has lived inside roles. Her self-contained energy does not compete with him. It does not submit either. It stands adjacent. And standing adjacent requires equality, psychological, emotional, existential. Many men have never been asked to meet a woman there. This is why some men unconsciously try to provoke her. They test for reaction. They withdraw to see if she will follow. They offer inconsistency to see if it destabilizes her. And when it doesn't, the discomfort sharpens. Because power that cannot be accessed through leverage feels unreachable. Her steadiness becomes a question he cannot ignore. Who am I when I am not needed? For a man whose sense of worth is tied to being central, rescuing, or desired at all costs, this question is terrifying. For a man who is ready to individuate, it is liberating. She does not create weakness. She reveals where strength has not yet been integrated. And this is the paradox. Around her, the man who is ready becomes stronger. The man who is not feels diminished. Not because she withholds love, but because she withholds dependency. And in that space, quiet, sovereign, unreactive, true masculine identity is either forged or exposed as unfinished. There is something else that happens around this woman, something subtle, almost invisible, yet deeply physical. A man begins to feel self-conscious in a way he hasn't felt before, not insecure in the loud sense, but internally observed, as if his inner posture is being felt, not evaluated. Her presence has no hunger. And hunger is what most people unconsciously respond to. When a woman wants reassurance, attention, consistency, or validation from a man, he feels oriented. He knows where to place himself. He can lead, withhold, provide, or withdraw. But when that hunger is absent, the dynamic changes. He is no longer responding to need. He is responding to being witnessed. This is where many men feel weak without understanding why. Because being witnessed without being needed removes negotiation power. She does not negotiate for affection. She does not negotiate for clarity. She does not negotiate for presence. She either experiences connection or she does not. And she remains intact either way. This creates a rare psychological pressure. Around her, a man cannot trade effort for control. He cannot substitute intensity for consistency. He cannot confuse attraction with depth. Everything becomes simpler, and simplicity exposes truth. He feels this in his body before he understands it mentally. His chest tightens slightly. His words become more deliberate. His impulses slow down. He becomes aware of how much of his behavior has been reflex rather than choice. This is not because she is intimidating. It is because she is internally regulated. A regulated nervous system has authority, not dominance, authority. It sets the emotional tempo, and when her tempo does not adjust to him, he must either regulate himself or feel destabilized. This is why some men suddenly feel tired around her, or unsure, or strangely quiet. Their usual emotional shortcuts are unavailable. There is no chaos to react to, no volatility to manage, no emotional imbalance to correct. And without those roles, they are left with presence alone. Presence requires honesty, and honesty is exhausting for those who are not practiced in it. She does not demand that he be better. She simply does not accommodate fragmentation. So if he is scattered, he feels scattered. If he is inconsistent, he feels inconsistent. If he is empty, he feels at echo. This is why men who are still building themselves often feel weak around her. Not because she threatens their masculinity, but because she removes the scaffolding that held it up. Her self-contained feminine energy does not challenge him directly. It removes the distractions that protected him from himself. And what remains is the most confronting experience of all. A woman who is fully present, and therefore does not carry what is not hers. Around her, a man discovers whether his strength is real, or whether it depended on someone else holding him together. Eventually, something unmistakable happens inside a man who stays near this woman long enough. His inner dialogue changes. He becomes aware of how often he once relied on reaction, on pursuit, tension, reassurance, to feel alive. Around her, that stimulation fades, and what replaces it is something far more confronting: stillness. Stillness exposes depth, or the lack of it. A self-contained woman does not create emotional noise. She does not dramatize closeness. She does not turn connection into turbulence. And because of that, a man can no longer confuse intensity with intimacy. The nervous excitement he once called chemistry no longer activates. Instead, there is quiet, and quiet asks a question he cannot outrun. Who am I when nothing is pulling me forward or pushing me away? Carl Jung believed that many people fear silence because silence dissolves the persona. Without stimulation, without conflict, without emotional movement, the psyche turns inward. And for a man who has built his identity on action, conquest, or reaction, this inward turn feels like weakness. But it is not weakness. It is initiation. Around her, he begins to notice his impatience, his desire to provoke emotion, his urge to be admired. And because she does not respond to these impulses, they lose their reward. The ego begins to starve, and the self begins to speak. This is why men who are not ready often disengage quietly. They say they lost interest. They say the connection felt flat. But what they truly lost was the emotional friction that kept them from meeting themselves. She does not excite the nervous system. She steadies it. And steadiness feels empty to those who have never learned to inhabit themselves. A man who has not yet integrated his inner world will interpret her calm as absence. He will feel weak because there is nothing to fight, nothing to win, nothing to dominate. There is only being. And being is terrifying when one is always done. But a man who stays, who allows the discomfort, begins to change. He slows. He listens differently. He stops performing strength and starts cultivating it. He realizes that her energy is not removing his power. It is asking him to locate it internally. She does not reward speed. She does not reward force. She responds only to coherence. And coherence cannot be faked. This is the moment where the emotional effect becomes irreversible. Because once a man has been near a woman who does not abandon herself for connection, he can no longer unknow it. Every relationship built on dependency will feel louder. Every dynamic built on control will feel crude. She raises the internal standard, not by instruction, but by existence. And that is why men feel weak around this type of woman. Not because she diminishes them, but because she introduces them to a version of themselves that can no longer hide behind noise. What she offers is not comfort. It is truth. And truth, before it strengthens, always humbles. At a certain point, the man begins to sense something quietly irreversible. He cannot go back to being unconscious around her. Even if he leaves, even if he distances himself, even if he chooses someone easier, the imprint remains. Because she did not attach to him. She revealed him. This is the deepest source of the weakness he feels. A self-contained woman does not bind a man through emotion. She binds him through awareness. And awareness, once awakened, cannot be undone. Around her, he may feel an unfamiliar humility. Not humiliation, humility. A subtle recognition that strength is not loudness, not certainty, not pursuit. Strength is containment. Strength is restraint. Strength is the ability to remain present without needing to be reinforced. She embodies this without effort. And that embodiment quietly dismantles the idea that masculinity must dominate in order to exist. She does not oppose him. She does not compete. She simply does not reorganize herself around him. And that forces him to confront a question most men have never been asked to answer honestly. Am I strong in myself, or only strong in response to others? Jung believed that true maturity emerges when a person stops living through projections and begins relating from the self. This woman offers no projection surface. She does not become the screen for his fantasies, fears, or unmet needs. And without that screen, his internal landscape becomes visible. He may feel weaker because he can no longer pretend. He notices that she does not overvalue his attention, that she does not rush to interpret his silence, that she does not personalize his moods. And this lack of personalization removes emotional power struggles entirely. There is nothing to win, nothing to leverage, nothing to withhold. Only presence remains, and presence demands congruence. If he is fragmented, he feels fragmented. If he is avoidant, he feels hollow. If he is integrated, he feels recognized. This is why her energy acts like a filter. Men do not rise or fall because of her. They reveal where they already stand. Some experience her as grounding, others as destabilizing. The difference is not her femininity, but their readiness. She does not require him to be more. She requires him to be real. And reality is the one terrain where ego-based strength dissolves. So when men say they feel weak around this type of woman, what they are really saying is this: I cannot access her through illusion. Her emotional self-containment removes fantasy from the equation. It strips connection down to its essence. And essence has no tolerance for performance. She does not conquer men. She clarifies them. And clarity, especially when unexpected, can feel like weakness to those who have mistaken noise for power and attention for worth. But for the man who stays, for the man who allows the discomfort, for the man who chooses depth over defense, she becomes the quiet threshold between who he has been and who he is capable of becoming. What happens next is subtle but decisive. A man who has been near this woman begins to notice that his old patterns no longer satisfy him. Even away from her, something feels exposed. The shortcuts he once used to feel powerful, distance, charm, ambiguity, conquest, feel strangely hollow now. Not wrong, just insufficient. Because once you have been met by stillness, noise loses its authority. This is the lasting emotional effect of self-contained feminine energy. It does not depend on proximity. It works inward. It reorganizes the psyche quietly, the way a deep truth does, without permission. Carl Jung believed that encounters with wholeness activate transformation whether we want it or not. He wrote that the psyche instinctively moves toward balance once imbalance is revealed. And this woman reveals imbalance simply by not participating in it. She does not argue for clarity. She does not plead for presence. She does not demand emotional coherence. She lives it, and that becomes a silent benchmark inside him. He may feel weaker because he senses that his inconsistencies are no longer invisible, that his half-efforts are no longer impressive, that his emotional evasions no longer feel clever. Around her, even in memory, he knows when he is not showing up fully. This awareness is uncomfortable, but discomfort is the gateway to maturity. Some men respond by numbing themselves again. They seek louder connections, faster intimacy, more reactive partners, anything to drown out the quiet standards she awakened. Others respond by turning inward. They begin to ask better questions. They slow their lives down. They feel the weight of their own inner architecture. Because for the first time, strength is no longer defined by how much impact they have on someone else, but by how aligned they are within themselves. This is why the weakness they feel is not collapse. It is reorganization. Her energy dismantles false hierarchies. It removes the illusion that one person must lean and the other must hold. It replaces dynamics with presence. And presence is unforgiving, but fair. She does not need to correct men. She does not need to confront them. She does not need to teach. Her emotional containment educates without words. And that is why she is unforgettable. Not because she overwhelms, not because she withholds, but because she introduces men to a depth where strength can no longer be borrowed, performed, or projected, only embodied. And once a man has felt that, even briefly, he can never again confuse attention with power, or control with connection, because somewhere inside him, her stillness remains, quietly asking him to become whole. There is a final shift that occurs when a man truly understands why he feels weak around this woman. The feeling stops being threatening and becomes instructive. He realizes that what he called weakness was never loss of power. It was the collapse of borrowed power. Borrowed power comes from reaction, from being needed, from being chased, feared, admired, or emotionally depended on. And she offers none of that. Instead, she offers something far rarer, emotional neutrality that is alive, warm, and awake. She does not withdraw to punish. She does not engage to secure. She relates from choice, not hunger. And this forces a man into a new internal position, one where power must come from coherence, not leverage. This is where many men feel an existential discomfort they struggle to articulate. Around her, they cannot matter by being dramatic. They cannot be significant by being unpredictable. They cannot feel strong by being desired alone. Desire is not currency with her. Presence is, and presence demands alignment. She does not reward potential. She does not reward intention. She responds only to what is real, consistent, and embodied. So a man begins to notice the gap between who he says he is and how he lives, between what he promises and what he sustains, between what he wants and what he can actually hold. And that gap feels like weakness because it has been invisible for most of his life. This woman does not shame the gap. She does not name it. She simply does not step into it. And because she doesn't, the man must look at it himself. This is why she often becomes a turning point in a man's emotional life. Not always a partner, sometimes just a presence, a brief encounter, a season. But after her, things change. The old dynamics feel hollow. The old patterns feel exposed. The emotional games feel exhausting. Because once strength has been redefined internally, the nervous system rejects false versions of it. She shows, without instruction, that feminine energy does not need to collapse to be loving, soften to be safe, or adapt to be chosen. And in doing so, she removes the unconscious permission men had to remain unintegrated. This is not cruelty. It is clarity. And clarity is uncomfortable before it is empowering. A man who meets this woman is invited into adulthood, not socially, but psychologically. He is asked to regulate himself, to choose consciously, to stand without performance. And whether he accepts or rejects that invitation determines everything that follows. She does not weaken men. She ends the illusion that strength comes from outside. And once that illusion ends, there is no going back, only forward, into something truer, quieter, and far more demanding. Something real. And now, we arrive at the quiet conclusion, not as an ending, but as a settling. A man who has felt weak around this type of woman eventually understands something essential. She was never meant to be held in the old way. She was never meant to orbit him, soothe him, or confirm him. She arrived as a psychological threshold, not to punish, not to correct, but to separate illusion from truth. What she awakens is not fear. It is responsibility. Responsibility for one's own emotions. Responsibility for one's own direction. Responsibility for one's own depth. As Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And this woman stands as living proof of that process. She has already paid the price of self-containment, the loneliness, the self-confrontation, the discipline of not collapsing into others. And because she has done that work, she no longer unconsciously invites men to remain unfinished. This is why she feels dangerous to some and sacred to others. She does not reward charm over character. She does not confuse desire with devotion. She does not mistake intensity for intimacy. Her feminine energy is not expansive, it is rooted. It does not spread outward looking for anchors. It grows downward, into itself. And anything that meets her must do the same. So when a man feels weak around her, what he is really feeling is this: I can no longer hide behind who I pretend to be. And that realization, though uncomfortable, is a gift. Because the men who choose to grow after encountering her do not become stronger for her. They become stronger because of themselves. She does not become their source. She becomes their reference point. And the men who walk away, they leave with something they cannot erase. A quiet knowing that strength without integration is fragile. That power without presence collapses. That love without selfhood corrodes. She does not chase men. She does not wait for them. She does not define herself against them. She lives, contained, sovereign, awake. And in doing so, she changes the emotional landscape forever. Not by force, not by strategy, but by the rarest power of all. A woman who has come home to herself, and therefore no longer asks anyone else to be her shelter.